The fabulously wealthy and handsome Count Edmond Dantes, who took his revenge on the traitors after many years, is the main character of the novel, The Count of Monte Cristo. He captured the hearts of millions of women, especially after the release of the beautiful French film starring Jean Marais. However, this story might never have existed if Alexandre Dumas hadn't come across documents about the real-life prototype of Edmond. The Count was real. Of course, the great novelist added his own flair, making the character more vibrant, but the biography of Edmond closely mirrors that of François-Pierre Picard, born in Nîmes on the 2nd of May in 1780. The real Edmond was a shoemaker who hit the jackpot when he won the love of a noblewoman, Marguerite Vigoureux. Despite their differences in background, her family welcomed François warmly. In Nîmes, he was regarded as a clever, kind, and promising man, qualities that were essential for climbing the social ladder in the early 19th century rather than noble lineage. Social mobility in action. François' rising success sparked jealousy. Mathieu Lupien, a local innkeeper, along with 3 accomplices, decided to write a denunciation against the young man. The accusation claimed that Picard was actually an English spy, an aristocrat, and a declared enemy of Napoleon. The police chief, Savary, took note of the document, and one day, François did not return home. Just like in the story of Edmond Dantes, François Picard found himself imprisoned in a fortress. He was completely unaware of the charges against him or who was behind the changes in his fate. His beautiful fiancée searched for him in vain, while his family was left in confusion. If François had suddenly decided to leave Marguerite, why didn't he simply tell her? If he had been killed, why was there no trace of him? François Picard spent less time in prison than the character in the novel, 7 years. It's unclear how he met the Milanese prelate, who was also imprisoned. The secret tunnel connecting the prisoners' cells seems more like a product of Alexandre Dumas's imagination. It's much more likely that François and the priest were in the same room. They had plenty of time for conversation, and during those long talks, they got to know each other very well. The prelate had no heirs but possessed a fortune, an Italian estate plus hidden treasures. He bequeathed everything to Picard. Like in the novel, the elderly man died before his release, but François was fortunate. He regained his freedom at the age of 34. The former shoemaker needed some time to settle his inheritance. With a $1 million fortune, he could travel freely and comfortably across Europe, living life to the fullest. But first, he wanted to find out how his happiness had been shattered in a single day. Soon, he got answers to all his questions. He learned the names of his accusers and deduced their motives. But the hardest blow came from the story of Marguerite. Just 2 years after François' disappearance, she married none other than Mathieu Lupien, the very man who orchestrated Picard's arrest. François learned much of this story from one of the conspirators, Antoine. Just like in the novel, Picard approached him disguised as an abbé. The unfolding events closely mirror those in The Count of Monte Cristo. François told Antoine that the unfortunate Picard had died in prison but had bequeathed a precious ring to his friend before passing. Greedy Antoine quickly exposed all the informers, hoping to claim the valuable piece of jewelry for himself. For his next move, Picard had to change disguises again. He got a job as a waiter at Mathieu Lupien's restaurant, where 2 of his other enemies often gathered. Before long, each of them met their end. Only Lupien remained, but Picard was in no rush to settle the score with him. He orchestrated the son of the innkeeper into a bad crowd and contributed to the downfall of the restaurant before finally revealing his identity. Just before plunging a dagger into Mathieu, Picard introduced himself. However, the retribution for François led to a different conclusion than that of Edmond Dantes. Historical accounts indicate that Picard was killed by none other than Antoine Alou, the man to whom he had given the ring. Later, Alou realized that the abbé who visited him wasn't who he claimed to be, and he began searching for him. Their encounter in Paris ended tragically for Picard. Tormented by guilt, Alou shared the story of his life with a priest, who documented it and sent it to the police. where the papers were eventually discovered by historian Jacques Pouchet. This remarkable series of events became the foundation for Pouchet's article, The Diamond and Revenge, published in a French newspaper. Dumas was captivated by the plot and, in his quest for more details, combed through police archives. This led him to obtain the denunciation of Picard, which he then processed into the novel The Count of Monte Cristo. Beyond the main storyline, Dumas's novel blossomed with additional, vibrant elements. A host of characters emerged, only loosely connected to the protagonist yet beloved by readers, including the beautiful Haydée, Valentine de Villefort, and even Andrea Cavalcanti. The author chose not to lead Edmond to a dramatic conclusion, allowing him to resolve his story quite successfully. For this, all admirers of his extensive works are grateful.